I challenged Brock with every single Pokemon line to see which one would be the best against him and to see how difficult is Brock as the first gym leader in the Kanto region. And what better way to see this than by ranking every Pokemon by how well they did against him from F all the way to the S tier. We'll start with the ones on the F- tier. These are the Pokemon that couldn't do anything to Geodude because they had no attacking moves. And this part is going to be short. There's the obvious ones in Magikarp, Abra, Feebas, and Wynaut. But what I was shocked to see was two legendary Pokemon that also fell into this category, and they were both Lugia and Ho-Oh. Both of them only have Whirlwind and Safeguard, and they don't get an attacking move until level 22 in Ghost. Even worse, they don't get another attacking move until level 44. So yeah, these Pokemon are completely useless for this point in the game. And just so everyone knows, all of the Pokemon on this video were tested using their best moveset for that point in the game, as if they were your starter. Besides that, I wasn't allowed to use items, have them with Matt's IVs in a neutral nature, and at the level cap of the gym leader, which in this case is level 14. Moving on to the F tier, these are Pokemon that still cannot get past Geodude, but can at least do some damage to him. These Pokemon are Dratini, Ladybug, Pineco, Sneasel, Delibird, and Tyrogue. All of them only have normal type attacking moves, with some of them having access to some way of lowering defense. However, with Geodude having defense curl and the Pokemon already doing a pathetic amount of damage, it doesn't really make a difference. The only ones that are noteworthy are Pineco, who has self-destruct, but unless he gets a crit, even that move does nothing to Geodude, and Ladybug, who has Supersonic. But even with insane luck, he doesn't win. Still, no Pokemon that can be considered useful for Brock. On the F+ tier, Pokemon start becoming somewhat useful. These Pokemon have the same issues as the ones on the F tier, but at least they have some way of debuffing him. These Pokemon are Pikachu, Hoothoot, Buzzle, and Minun. They only get Growl, with Pikachu also having Static, but at least that move makes them a bit more useful than the others, allowing them to do a bit more damage by surviving a bit longer. Buzzle and Minun also have Thunder Wave, but Geodude is immune to it, so it's useless for this fight. The Pokemon still only have resisted moves, so they cannot do much more than that. Now, since Pikachu is on this tier, you might be wondering, where's Pichu? And the answer to that is that I decided not to include the baby Pokemon on this ranking unless they evolve by level. I already had a hard time deciding if I should include friendship evolutions, and the baby Pokemon made that problem even worse. Since a lot of the baby Pokemon are just pre-evolutions of already existing Pokemon on the Kanto Pokédex, I decided to just exclude the ones that needed friendship to make it easier on myself. I'm already ranking over 200 Pokemon. I don't see the need to test the ones that are obviously going to end up in the F tier. The same went for Togepi, by the way. We move on to the D- tier, and here we finally see Pokemon that can get past Geodude. However, they need to rely on a lot of luck by getting crits, hoping that Geodude doesn't get a single one, and maybe some other stuff. These Pokemon are Spearow, Psyduck, Seel, Electabuzz, Sentret, Mareep, Teddiursa, Phanpy, and Electrike. Electabuzz, Mareep, and Electrike need Static to activate. Spearow, Seel, and Mareep need to use Growl to lower Geodude's attack. Sentret and Phanpy need to increase their defenses. And then there's some more unique strategies, with Psyduck needing to use Disable, Seel having to make sure he doesn't run out of power points, Teddiursa using Leak for paralysis, and Electrike needing to set up Howls to raise his attack. All of them needing to get a couple of crits and that the opponent doesn't get a single one. Like I said, a lot of luck is needed to win, but it's not impossible. On the D tier, we have Pokemon that rely on accuracy drops, evasion boost, or confusion to win. They still need a lot of luck, since they only have resisted attacking moves, but less than the ones on the D- tier. These Pokemon are Pidgey, Venonat, Farfetch, Goldeen, Eevee, Janma, Espeon, and Umbreon. Venonat and Goldeen rely on Supersonic, with Venonat also using Disable to prevent Geodude from using Tackle, and Goldeen using Tail Whip to make him hit himself even harder. As for the others, Janma uses Double Team, and Pidgey, Farfetch, Eevee, Espeon, and Umbreon rely on Sand Attack. Espeon and Umbreon unfortunately don't get a stab move until level 16, so they have to use Tackle for damage. They need less luck to win compared to the previous tier, but it's still not a reliable strategy. As for the friendship evolutions, I decided to just use them alongside their pre-evolutions, since it's difficult to determine when you would evolve them. Because technically you can get them right away, but if you don't try, you may be stuck with its pre-evolution until the league. So I decided it was safer to just test both until I reach the league, where you will certainly try to evolve them. As for the D+ tier, these are Pokemon that can reliably defeat Geodude, but take ages to do so. Either because of how many status moves they have to use, or just because they resist normal but also hit with a resisted move. These Pokemon are Sandshrew, Zubat, Geodude, Magnemite, Lickitung, Ditto, Mew, Aipom, Shuckle, Zigzagoon, Wishmore, Nosepass, Volbeat, Illumise, Swablu, Lilip, Anorith, Chimecho, and Bellbomb. The ones who resist normal but just have weak attacks are Geodude, Magnemite, Shuckle, Nosepass, Lilip, Anorith, and Beldum, alongside both Ditto and Mew. A couple of them have some gimmick, like Magnemite with Supersonic, Shuckle with Wrap, or Lilip with Astonish, but in general, they take way too long defeating Geodude while taking almost no damage from him. The same goes for Ditto and Mew, who can transform into Geodude, but take too long to defeat him and end up using Struggle to win. As for the ones that rely heavily on debuffing Geodude and /or preventing him from attacking, there's Sandshrew, Zubat, Lickitung, Aipom, Zigzagoon, Wishmore, Volbeat, Illumise, Swablu, and Chimecho. They have more than one way of getting the advantage against Geodude, either by reducing his attack, increasing their own defense, confusion, paralysis, sleep, accuracy, healing, etc. But the TLDR is that they make it so that Geodude almost never attacks or deals as little damage as possible. Also, as a side note, when I tried using Mew for the first time, it wouldn't obey me no matter what I did. I looked online and it seems that there's something in the code that prevents both Mew and Deoxys from obeying the player. That is, unless they were acquired in a legitimate way. The way to fix this, or at least the one that I found, was to go to PK Heads and on the Med tab, put Mew as found as a faithful encounter. Doing that worked for me. Just thought that I would put it out there in case there's anyone else having the same issue as me. Moving on to the C tier, as a whole, here's where we're starting to see Pokemon that can consistently defeat Geodude, but simply have nothing to do against Onix. The C- tier is for the Pokemon that rely on brute force and some gimmick. They either have weak neutral moves, strong resisted moves, and /or high attack. They may also use some move to lower Geodude's defense or flinch him, but they can still reliably beat him. These Pokemon are Rattata, Voltorb, Heracross, Sandler, Taillow, and Absol. Rattata and Taillow have strong stab moves, with Taillow also having Focus Energy. Heracross, Sandler, and Absol have a high attack stat while also having Leer, and Voltorb has Screech to harshly lower Geodude's defense alongside Static as his ability. Geodude still resists most of these moves and has Defense Curl, but through Brute Force they are able to defeat him at a decent speed. The C tier is for the Pokemon that rely on Stolen with Poison to defeat Geodude and cannot do the same against Onix. These Pokemon are Beedrill, Paras, Tentacool, Coughing, Spinarak, and Gulpin. Either through Poison Sting or a status move that poisons, all of these Pokemon can reliably stall Geodude so that he can get defeated through the poison damage. However, they cannot replicate the same method on Onix. Not even Beedrill after setting up 6 Hardens. A bit disappointing to also see Tentacool here, but he unfortunately doesn't get a water move until level 25. C+ is for the Pokemon that use Brute Force, but unlike the ones from the C- tier, they do not rely on gimmicks. However, they are weak to Rock, so they can't do much to Onix. These Pokemon are Doduo, Scyther, Aerodactyl, and Zapdos. Doduo and Scyther have Pursuit, but obviously crumble when hit with a Rock Tomb. And both Aerodactyl and Zapdos have a really high attack alongside a stab move, but cannot do much against Onix. Now for context, because some of you might be wondering how some Flying and Bug types can defeat Geodude, in Fire Leaf Green, Brox's Geodude only has Tackle and Defense Curl. He's at the level where he should have Rock Throw, but for some reason he just doesn't have it. Something that also helps is that for some reason, Brock is the only gym leader in the Gen 3 games that doesn't use a single healing item. No potions, no full heals, no berries, nothing. Because of that, it's not that difficult for a lot of Pokemon to get past him, as we'll see on the next tiers. onto the B tier, and here we're starting to see Pokemon that can beat Onix, but not in a recommended way. B- is going to be Pokemon that either rely on moves that require getting lucky, need for Rock Tomb to miss 1 or 2 times, or need to get a couple of crits. These Pokemon are Togetic, Natu, Misdreavus, Dunsparce, Nuzleaf, Spoink, Regirock, and both Latias and Latios. Misdreavus, Spoink, and the Lati's only attacking move is Psywave, a move that deals a random amount of damage that goes from 1.5 times the level of the Pokemon all the way to just 1 damage. Not only that, but the move also has a chance to miss. As for the others, Nuzleaf needs for everything to go right to be able to deal the right amount of damage to Brock while using Bite. Togetic's only attacking move is Metronome, so you know. And finally, Natu, Dunsparce, and Regirock need for either Rock Tomb to miss a couple of times or to get enough crits. They need an amount of luck that's not unreal, but one that makes it way too unreliable. B tier are the Pokemon that require a turn 1 burn on Onix, or for Rock Tomb to miss just once. These Pokemon are Charmander, Vulpix, Ponyta, Moltres, Quilava, Murkrow, Houndour, Torchic, Beautifly, and Surskit. I don't think I need to tell you which Pokemon goes on which category, but Murkrow with Pursuit, Beautifly with Absorb, and Surskit with Bubble end up here not only because of not being able to one-shot Onix, but also because they outspeed him, making him go for Rock Tomb. If they didn't, he would probably just go for Tackle instead. Now, the reason why defeating Onix is much harder than Geodude is twofold. One reason is that the Pokemon is probably already worn out from fighting Geodude first. So going into Onix, the Pokemon's HP is obviously lower than Brock's Onix. The second reason is much simpler. His moveset is just much better. He has Rock Tomb, Bind, and Tackle. As explained before, he'll only use Rock Tomb if he sees a KO with it, or if he's lower than the Pokemon he's fighting. So unless the Pokemon has low HP or a weakness to it, it's not that much of an issue. Tackle is Tackle, and Bind can be a problem if the Pokemon's strategy is stalling with increased defenses or by lowering Onix's attack, since it does 1/16 of the HP of the target. Like I said, the moveset is not that much of an issue unless the strategy is stalling or the Pokemon is weak to Rock. For the B+ tier, here we see Pokemon that can somewhat reliably defeat Onix, but take ages in doing so. These Pokemon are Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Rhyhorn, Chansey, Tauros, Sudowoodo, Skarmory, Miltank, Blissey, Dustots, Slakoth, Nincada, and Skitty. Rhyhorn, Sudowoodo, and Skarmory do so by resisting normal moves and having a great defense stat, with Skarmory and Rhyhorn also lowering Onix's defense and Sudowoodo having Flay when he got to low HP. Dustots by setting up Hardens and hitting with Confusion multiple times. Nincada using Zen Attack and Harden alongside the recovery from Leech Life. Tauros just using Raw Power. Miltank using Defense Curl and also just Brute Force. Clefairy, Jigglypuff, and Skitty using some way to reduce the damage from the opponent. Sing and Q-Charm to make it so that they never get hit, and if they do, they take as little damage as possible. Both Chansey and Bliss using Growl and Tail Whip to nerf Brock's Steam and Soft Boil to heal. And finally, the surprising one was Slakoth, who even though had the ability Truant, managed to win using John, Slakoth, Anchor, and Scratch. Moving on to the A tier, this is for the Pokemon that can win somewhat consistently, but I still wouldn't really rely on them. The A- tier is for the Pokemon that require a crit or a bit of luck. These Pokemon are Meowth, Gastly, Slugma, and Ralts. Meowth uses Bite and Growl, but needs a crit and to not get crit for the strategy to work. Gastly uses Curse and Hypnosis, but needs for the max amount of sleep turns and for Hypnosis to work. And Ralts hits hard with Confusion, but needs to both not get hit by a crit or to get hit too many times. The A tier is for the Pokemon that can safely beat Onix, but need to stall to win. These Pokemon are Grimer, Execute, Hoppip, Wobbuffet, Gligar, and Smeargle. Grimer, Hoppip, and Gligar use Poison to stall, with Grimer and Gligar also being able to buff their defenses and Hoppip having Synthesis. For Execute, he has Leech Seed, Hypnosis, and Reflect to ensure that he never falls below half HP. Now, as for Wobbuffet and Smeargle, Wobbuffet should probably be in the S tier if I'm honest, but since he relies on using Counter, and if he gets really unlucky he could get stalled out of power points, I'm leaving him here. As for Smeargle, I decided to not allow to teach him the moves of the starter Pokemon that the rival uses, since it's something that you're not guaranteed. Because of that, his best moveset, in my opinion, was to go for Poison Sting from Weedle and Harden from Kakuna. It works surprisingly well, but it's still a stall strategy. He would definitely be an S tier with Water Gun. For the A+ tier, here we have Pokemon that don't need luck to win and can win consistently, but just need to not get unlucky by getting crit, especially by Rock Tomb. These Pokemon are Butterfree, Ekans, Growlithe, Magmar, Pinsir, Articuno, Mantine, Poochyena, Carvanha, Numel, Torkoal, Spinda, Trapinch, Zangoose, Shuppet, Bagon, and the Otis Attack. Most of these are Pokemon that I just didn't want to put on the S tier, either because of their weakness to Rock or because they were really frail. And even when Rock Tomb is only used if you outspeed on it, and even when they got a win like 90% of the time, if it got a crit, it was just game over. The Otis Attack was one that surprised me. His only attack is Nightshade, a move that does set damage, so he couldn't take advantage of his insanely high attack stat, in contrast to his other form in this game that I'll talk about later. Also, Zangoose's best move is Quick Attack, but he has Sword Stance, and that combination did really good damage against Brock. Just a shame that he couldn't live against a couple of crits. Also, in case anyone was wondering, only the Otis Attack and Defense are available on the Gen 3 Kanto games, with the attack form being exclusive to Fire Red and the defense form being exclusive to Leaf Green. Finally, it's the S tier. All of the Pokemon from here on out have absolutely no way of getting defeated by Brock and can safely beat him. We'll start with the ones on the S- tier. These Pokemon, as said before, can safely beat Brock, but take a couple of turns in doing so. These Pokemon are the two Nidos, Diglett, Shelder, Onix, Drowsy, Cubone, Kangaskhan, Omanite, Kabuto, Snorlax, Girafarig, Snubbull, Larvitar, Shroomish, Sableye, Seviper, Kecleon, Duskull, and the Otis Defense. As said before, all of these Pokemon can beat Brock without issues. It's just that they take a bit longer to do so than the ones on the S tier or the S+ tier. The only outliers are Diglett, who uses Magnitude, so needs to just not get unlucky by only getting Magnitude Force, Shelder, who's using Icicle Spear, but still wins if he gets 2 hits. Also, as a side note, Shelder doesn't get the same type attack bonus from Icicle Spear since it's a pure water type. It gains the ice type upon evolution. Cubone, who's using the inaccurate Bone Club, Snorlax, who's using Belly Drum and Tackle but is never at risk of fainting, and Shroomish, who's here only because of how much I hate the fact that he can even one-shot a Geodude with Absorb. Now, something that I haven't mentioned yet is what I'm going to do with the trade evolutions from Johto and Hoenn that require items. And what I've come up with is that I'm going to allow them to happen as soon as I beat Koga and get access to Surf outside of battle. I feel like that's the point where you get most items, either by using Thief or just by getting them from NPCs. I'm still going to test the evolution and the pre-evolution for the trade evos, but I thought I should clarify that. On the S tier, here are the Pokemon that get hit only once or just resist everything the opponent uses. Now prepare yourself because this is going to be a long one. These Pokemon are Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Oddish, Mankey, Machop, Bellsprout, Slowpoke, Krabby, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Mr. Mime, Porygon, Mewtwo, Chikorita, Totodile, Chinchou, Marill, Sunkern, Wooper, Unown, Swinub, Corsola, Raikou, Entei, Celebi, Mudkip, Makuhita, Mawile, Aeron, Meditite, Cacnea, Lunatone, Solrock, Corphish, Baltoy, Tropius, Snorunt, Spheal, Clamperl, Relicanth, Regice, Registeel, Groudon, Rayquaza, and Jirachi. I won't spend much time here, but I just want to talk about a couple of Pokemon. First, I want to talk about Porygon. He can do this really cool thing with Conversion 2, which turns him into a type that resists the move he was last hit with. So, if used after a tackle, it can turn Porygon into a Steel type that resists both normal and rock types. The second one is Unown. I decided to just give him the strongest type of hidden power for that gym since it's his only move. If I don't do that, because of the Matsai Beast, it turns into a 70 base power Dark type move. Lastly, Rayquaza has insane bulk while hitting super hard with Twister, so even though he's weak to rock type, he can make it this high. Finally, to end the video is the S+ tier. Every Pokemon here not only was able to defeat Brock consistently, but was able to do so while taking no damage. There's 18 Pokemon here, so without further ado, here are the best Pokemon against Brock. There's Poliwag with Water Gun, Tangela with Absorb, Horsey with Bubble, Staryu with Water Gun, Jinx with Powder Snow, Lapras with Water Gun, Quillfish with Water Gun, Remoraid with Water Gun, Suicune with Bubble Beam, Trico with Absorb, Lombre with Absorb, Wingull with Water Gun, Roselia with Absorb, Welmer with Water Gun, Barboach with Water Gun, Castform with Water Gun, Love-Disc with Water Gun, and lastly, Kyogre with the Water Pulse boosted by the rain. With that, of the 210 Pokemon tested, 16 are on the F tier, 36 are on the D tier, 16 are on the C tier, 32 are on the B tier, 27 are on the A tier, and 83 are on the S tier. These results show how, overall, the Pokemon are able to easily beat Brock, with more than half being able to sweep him somewhat reliably, and less than a quarter not being able to get past Geodude consistently. So, I think it's safe to say that Brock is an easy gym. And the reason is simple. He has no way of healing, his Geodude has no rock moves, and his two Pokemon are double weak to both grass and water moves, alongside Rock just not being a great type. Funny enough, most of these issues are fixed on the Roxanne gym fight, where not only does she get two potions, Rock Throw on his Geodude, a Nose Pass that's pure rock, and an Oranberry on her Nose Pass, but she even adds another Geodude to her team in Emerald. So yeah, Brock is just an easy gym. Anyways, did I miss anything on the video? If you think so, let me know in the comments below. This video was inspired by PokePhenomenal's Can I Beat Bruno with Every Pokemon in Kanto? So I'll leave the link to it in the description and on the top of the screen. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.